from the Illinois State Capitol, this is your Capitol Connection.
Welcome to Capitol Connection. I'm Mark Maxwell. The 2019 Illinois State Fair drew big crowds and big names. People poured through the turnstiles, stuffed the grandstands, and even shattered some attendance records, all while politicians worked the masses with rousing speeches and promises of a brighter future. Illinois Republicans acknowledge an uphill climb ahead to regain a foothold of power in state government. Illinois Democrats boasted getting big things done in year one under a new governor. But what comes next? I caught up with Governor Pritzker on the fairgrounds Thursday to find out.
You know, it's so much to, be celebrating about the state. That helps you when you're trying to get things done, like, having the best state fair ever. As you heard, we broke records not just in the grandstand revenue, but also in terms of attendance here at the fair.
I noticed even the butter cow has a construction hard hat on this year. How would you describe the impact of this Rebuild Illinois plan and what that represents for the state?
It was badly needed. I think everybody across the aisle understood that. So we're pleased to do that. We're putting a lot of people to work. Hundreds of thousands of people are going to get jobs as a result. And that's just the construction jobs.
Right.
Don't forget that the jobs that are really important are the long-term jobs that we're going to get out of this, because people are going to move their distribution centers or their logistics companies or their manufacturing companies here because of the infrastructure that we're putting our capital into.
One of the results of compromise at the end of session there was that data center tax incentive.
Yeah.
And there are some rumors out there that may have enticed a pretty big household name, Facebook, to possibly plant roots in the area. Couldn't it be a nice feather in the cap of Illinois to say we're making a comeback to get such a big high-tech company like that here in Illinois?
Well, we've had a lot of development of jobs in the state. I'm really proud of that. And one of the reasons, of course, is that we've looked at tax credits. We've lowered taxes for businesses across the state. Nobody really covered that after the session. Everybody wanted to cover kind of the big...
There's a lot to cover.
There was, which I'm very proud of. But, but everybody wanted to cover the legalization of cannabis or the legalization of sports betting or something else. But it's very important to me that we attract businesses. We make a great business environment for people who are starting businesses and people want to move to a place that's got great talent like Illinois.
It was interesting. I noticed in your remarks at the county brunch, you sort of used the blank check rhetoric against Republicans. You said a blank check for their donors. They've said your progressive tax is a blank check for politicians. I guess it doesn't really matter if the check is blank as long as it can be cashed. So that's the question I have. How confident are you that the Illinois government can cash the checks that you're writing right now with the capital bill, with the progressive income tax, with your plans to fix pensions? There's a lot of big stuff out there left to be done still. Are you sure we can pay for it all?
There wasn't a massive increase in government spending. We're simply putting back what I would say is a hollowed out government that I inherited from my predecessor. That's number one. Number two, we've got to fix our long-term fiscal challenges in the state. And that's the reason that I proposed and suggested a fair tax for the state. It's also the reason that we're rationalizing the way we spend our money within the agencies.
You had the 1871 background with big tech incubators. There's a lot of those smart jobs, and there's artificial intelligence, there's automation, there's all these big jobs that I think for some people in rural parts of the state seem very unattainable, out of reach even. How do you speak to that part of the state? And when they hear you talking about biopharmaceuticals or technology or jobs of the future, how do you tell them that those jobs aren't going to displace or diminish their place in Illinois?
Well, let's start with how we're preparing people for those jobs. And the first thing is, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but just earlier today, I announced our Broadband Advisory Council.
Right.
What's that about? That's about expanding high-speed internet to every place in Illinois. Because one of the reasons that jobs have not been available, like we're talking about, in areas of the state you're talking about, is because we're not providing high-speed internet. I mean, if you don't have it, jobs aren't going to go there. Companies don't want to move to a place where they can't use high-speed internet. Not to mention, our agriculture agricultural economy is now becoming internet-based. If you talk to farmers, they need broadband internet just to manage their farms now. But we don't provide it to them. So let's do it. So in our capital bill, Rebuild Illinois, there's $420 million for focusing on raising up speed and access to broadband internet everywhere in the state. So that's one very important foundation for the future of job creation.
There's a constant strain or a regional strain in the state too. The Illinois Republican Party right now is surging in two directions. One of those directions is to try and divide the state. You've heard some of this rhetoric. It's a far-fetched idea. But they seem to be trying to harness a resentment in rural America that I think exists beyond just Illinois and sort of blame it on the Democrats who have controlled this party for a while. How do you speak to that person, maybe in a town of 600, who might see a big city billionaire as their new governor and think, do you think you can relate to that person? Can you break through that wall and speak to them on a way that maybe someone hasn't in the past?
I do, and I'll tell you why. For the 2 years, I think, that we were out on the campaign trail, I talked a lot about the fact that, I understand when someone lives in Anna, Illinois, in Union County, why they might think that someone all the way from Chicago can't possibly understand the challenges that they're going through. Here's what I know, that I said during the campaign that it was important to me to do the number one thing that's needed in Southern Illinois, which is create jobs. And that's what we're doing. And number two, the educational institutions that we've been talking about, most of them are in downstate Illinois. They're not in Chicago. Most of them are in downstate Illinois. And they're also economic hubs of activity, right, where small businesses get started. This is hugely important to me, to create jobs and give opportunity to people in places outside of Chicago and the collar counties, because these are the places that have been forgotten and left out.
One state over, there's also a state fair that was just going on. Got a lot of attention. You might have seen this.
I did, yeah.
In Iowa.
Yeah.
One of your fellow Democrats, Treasurer Mike Frerichs, just backed Elizabeth Warren for president.
Yeah.
When you look at all those candidates cycling through state, it was about a year ago you were campaigning here at this one. You know that world a little bit.
I do.
Who do you see so far that you like in this race for president?
I've not taken sides in this, and it's been, for me anyway. Can I buy?
Well, let me get mine. How's that?
Okay, we'll do that.
We'll split it.
Yep. What I know is that we have to beat Donald Trump. Frankly, any one of the candidates that's running today would do a much better job than Donald Trump has done as president. And so what I am hoping for is a campaign that's about jobs, education, and health care. We, of course, know that Donald Trump is a disgrace, that he's doing a terrible job representing the values of the American people.
You were a big player and a big donor in Democratic Party politics for a while, including the last presidential run. Does that change for you now? Do you feel handcuffed by the fact that you're a governor and you don't want to take sides, or should we expect to see you speak up on who you like at some point?
I'm going to get very involved in the general election, certainly. I mean, my number one job, of course, is fixing, dealing with the challenges that we've got here in the state of Illinois.
If you could multitask, do a few things at once.
Well, I'm sure
your endorsement would mean a lot to someone.
I certainly want to help beat Donald Trump, and I've been I think vocal about that. I'm not shy about it. I think he's bad for America. And so I will certainly get involved in one fashion or another.
Do you think Joe Biden could do better on the campaign trail with some of the rhetorical gaffes he's had lately, some of the things he said? Is he a worrisome candidate to you? Do you think he'd be a safe bet?
You know what? I think he was a terrific vice president, and I think he'd make a great president. I think, like I said, every Democrat that's running would be better than Donald Trump. So it's, as to gradations of, who you might like on this issue or that issue, frankly, that's much less important than the fact that our country is being challenged right now by a guy who's acting like a tyrant who's in the White House. He's a racist. He's a xenophobe. He's sexist. He's wrong for America. And very importantly, he lied to people. When he was running, he said he was going to make their lives better. He said he was going to stand up for middle-class families. Instead, he gave an enormous tax break to the wealthiest people in the nation. Very little went to people in the middle class or working class. And now, guess who's going to pay the bill if you leave him in office? It's going to be the middle class and the working class that are paying the bills.
Why do you think he has captured, in Nancy Pelosi's words, the public sentiment of rural America so well then? What is it about President Trump's message that connects? If he's a racist, if he's all these things.
It's not so much that. Remember, in my opinion, why did people vote for Donald Trump? Who did? By the way, because he didn't win the popular vote, I just remind you. But why did people who vote for him? Because they're sick and tired of the fact that nobody's helping them. Right? They felt like, nobody is standing on their side, including Democrats weren't doing the job. So the question is, you're going to vote for maybe they were saying to themselves, am I going to vote for the same old thing? Or maybe something, I don't know what's going to happen, but if it blows everything up, maybe that's better than what we have now. That's what people were saying to each other. And so when we in this campaign, in the presidential race in 2020, when we Democrats express ourselves, we need to express our real values about standing up for the middle class. That's who the Democratic Party is. We're the party that creates jobs. We're the party that fights for the middle class. We're the party that stands up for people who need government to stand for them and stand up for them. So I know that if we put that message out there, that whoever our candidate is going to win.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this. First state fair in the books. We're almost to the finish line.
Great to see you, Mark.
When we come back, our first sit-down with Illinois Republican Party Chairman Tim Schneider. He's the man in charge of a party at war with itself as factions try to rip it and the state in two. We'll be right back.